Welcome back to the Art Historical Lecture for Unit 7 in my Art Appreciation class. So when we last left off, we were talking about Anthony van Dyck. And so um, one of the points I was trying to make about Van Dyck and then into Poussin is that the international style of Baroque art was still continuing. There were still people who were making art for these big palace commissions and church commissions, and working for nobility and for kings and dukes. And so Pozzo's career can be understood to a certain degree as being a continuation of the efforts of what the Carracci brothers were after. So he worked primarily, didn't do a lot of work, wrote a book about painting, about painting trompe l'oeil painting specifically, and he did two main commissions. Um, after all, he was a Jesuit brother, so he had other things to do besides painting. But these two main commissions are a major part of his work, and so it's a continuation of kind of what the Carracci brothers, and it definitely leads to Tiepolo, and so kind of a continuation of this sort of more international style, and this idea of these Baroque ceiling surfaces kind of opening up to the heavens, and also playing with, like, this is a illusionistic, a trompe l'oeil dome. It's not a real dome, it's a painted dome that looks like it's a opening up dome depending on the angle that you get. And Tiepolo kind of continues that tradition, and in some ways Tiepolo, we'll talk about Tiepolo a little bit later when we get to the Rococo, because during the Rococo period, not everything is, not everything is exactly the same as French Rococo, and there were other types of art being made, such as these kind of Tiepolo ceiling paintings. But first, before we get there, let's talk about what's going on in France in the mid 17th century. So Poussin is kind of the founder of the French school of painting, and Poussin was at first very much an admirer of Carracci, and an admirer of painting that was kind of loose and transparent and colorful. But over time, he more and more his desire was to make French painting, make his painting, and by that definition, to make French painting more classical, more still in its composition, more opaque in its paint handling, and more more dense and less transparent, and less about the virtuosity of putting paint down, and more about smooth, clean surfaces. Paintings that become more and more like sculpture in a way. So as you can see from his paintings here on the right-hand side, the Seven Sacraments. And we've seen the abduction of the Sabine women a number of times, but now we can have a little bit more of a context of how it fit into this sort of developing conflict within his career, within Poussin's career, and then how this also kind of sets the trend for some of the divide within French painting, this divide between those who see the paint should be more transparent, more gestural, and more loose, versus those that see it as needs to be more controlled by drawing. The colors need to be denser, the brushwork needs to be more brushed out, less visible. And so, almost a direct kind of reaction to the dominance of Poussin and those who came after him, like Lebrun, not Vigée Lebrun, Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, but Lebrun, her father, who were very academic painters. So in reaction to them, we have Watteau. And Watteau really is the artist who's credited with starting the Rococo. And with the beginning of the Rococo, as you can see, we have more transparent color, softer colors, softer gradations of color, more use of looser brushwork, and he was also a brilliant draftsman and a brilliant painter in general. But he's more than just the Rococo in a way, more than just this one painting, which is the main painting people know him by, Journey to Cythera. As I said, he was one of the great figure draftsmen of all time, and he painted other types of paintings. He painted a lot of more traditional religious paintings as well, but we don't have time to look at everything in Watteau's career. But he was very influential, and so we have the development in France of what's called the Rococo. And the Rococo is like the Baroque in some ways, but it's lighter in many ways. Lighter in tone, lighter in subject matter, more frivolous. And it was also a lot more emphasis on loose paint handling, on transparency, less on strict, careful drawing. This Fragonard here is really beautiful, and I love the play of opacity and transparency here in this negative space area. And then in reaction to the Rococo, we then have also in France we have the development of the neoclassical period. To a certain degree, it's almost a revival of the Poussin-esque values. All right, that's a good place to end part 2.